Well, the International Literacy Day is also an opportunity for governments, civil society and stakeholders to highlight improvements in world literacy rates and reflect on the world's remaining literacy challenges. Well, a civic society analyst and a youth leader joins me on the set now to talk more about this remarkable day. He's Waleey Opeyemi Fatai. Thank you very much for your time on the news.
For having me.
Thank you. So it's literacy in a digital world. We know how digital the world has become. It has become one global village. How can we begin to implement a higher level of literacy in a world like this?
Well, thank you very much. We cannot overemphasize the importance of literacy, particularly within the Nigerian society. And of course, in the world of today, like you said, the world has gone really digital. And of course, if we would go by the United Nations definition of literacy itself, it goes beyond reading or writing. Moves into your ability to use the computer system, your ability to go online, because most of the opportunities, most of the information that we need to survive in the world of today is found online. Now, the question is, how prepared is the Nigerian system, first of all, for this digital world? And number two, the people who have access to internet facilities, for example, how well do they use these facilities? So I would say basically that let us start from the formal education aspect. Okay. Most of the people in school today use the social media platforms for things different entirely. And even if you look at the university...
Well, the things different, Facebook, Instagram?
No, Facebook, Instagram. For someone like me, I make a lot of friends on Facebook, and it's
those are actually useful?
Yes, very, very useful. Okay. Very, very useful.
But are they educational?
Of course, very educational.
Facebook educational?
Very, very educational. For someone like me, for example, I follow quite a number of social commentators on Facebook, for example. Right. And I follow even your own news medium on Facebook.
Right. That makes a lot of sense now. Okay, there's a saying that if you want to hide something from a black man, put it in a book. How can we begin? And we still see that now, even though there are lots of groups that have come out now to try to incorporate or reincorporate that, if it was there in the first place, that is that reading culture in our youths. We'll start from there now, you know. How can that be promoted? How can we encourage more people to even come on board to make reading more appealing to youths?
Well, you spoke well. Let me quickly give an example.
Thank you, by the way.
The last time I traveled out of the country, I was in Switzerland this year, March. Okay. I noticed that most of the people that I met at one point or the other had something they were reading, either in hard copy or soft copy. Now, I came back to Nigeria, and most of the times when I was on public transit, I found out that many people were either on their phones, chatting, or watching videos that are not really educational and all of that. So the question for us is, how do we begin to ensure that people get more interested in reading? Now, I was reading a couple of days ago, and I saw that Lagos State, for example, broke a world record. Guinness Book of Records had the largest reader audience ever of about 4,800 students, school pupils. But my own concern is it's high time we left formal education. Not totally, but then it's high time we looked beyond formal education. Okay. Because the truth is that let us leave Lagos, for example, leave Southwest, for example, go to the far northern region. There are so many people, there's so many young boys and girls who do not have access to reading facilities, who do not have access to education. And that is why for someone like me, or for people like us at the Nigerian Youth Town Hall, for example, we advocate for civic education. Civic education, that is those people who find it difficult to get to school, meet them on the streets, meet them on the roads, tell them certain basic things. And of course, if you look at the rate of adult education in Nigeria, you see that it's very, very minimal. And I can count on the tips of my fingers how many universities or how many colleges of education offer adult education as a course of study.
But let's put it in perspective now. Are you talking about, because the theme for this year is literacy in the digital world, are you talking about meeting these people at their own point now, or trying to raise them to a certain standard?
Meeting these people at their own point is the first step. Now, someone who does not know how to read or how to write cannot use the digital world effectively. You would agree with me. So that is the first step that we need to take. Now, when we have sorted that out, when we have sorted adult education out, adult education is not about the BSc or the PhD or the MSc. Adult education simply is for those women at Makoko or Iwaya who cannot read, and then you help them to read basic information that they need to survive.
Okay, talking about information, now let's assume we've gotten to that point where they've been raised, everyone has been raised to that standard. What's lacking in that standard in our education system? What more needs to be infused in it to help a digitally driven society?
Well, thank you very much. I'll talk like an undergraduate that I am. If you look at the university system, for example, the libraries in our university, they are not digital, they are analog. And that is why we find it very difficult to update our research materials. Now, it is my own proposal, for example, to say from the primary education level to the tertiary education level, most of these library facilities should be made digital, because if they are digital, then you make your work easier. It is a lot easier for you to update your materials, to update your information, and of course, because for people like me who are in school, we are very much interested in the digital world, and that is why we're always with our phones, our laptops, and our tabs. Then we are also more interested in reading, because all of the materials that we need to read can now be accessed.
What do you think are the challenges to achieving this?
Well, I could say, for example, the lackluster attitude of the government. You see, as we speak now, undergraduates are out of the university, so meaning that we have funding as a very, very big problem. And the digital world cannot survive without enough, a buoyant financial system, a buoyant financing system. So it is our own proposal that it's high time the government took this much more seriously, because if we're aiming at achieving the Sustainable Development Goal 4 of quality education for all by 2030, I mean, this is 2017, we are just 13 years away. If we do not invest as much as we should in the digital education world, I'm afraid we might be centuries behind.
Okay, let's leave it here for now. Waleey, Fatai, thank you very much. I've particularly enjoyed this interview. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.